Alright, so today we are going to be talking about multiplying and dividing integers. Now, as you can see here, um, it says the rules are for multiplying and dividing integers are very different from the rules for adding and subtracting integers. So we talked a lot about adding and subtracting integers last time, and we also did a lot of practice work with it. So um, you will notice that the rules are very, very different for multiplying and dividing, and in my opinion are a little bit easier to understand. So we're going to start with multiplying a positive number by a negative number. So we have a rule here. The rule states that a positive number multiplied by a negative number is a negative. So for example, if we have a positive times a negative, it's going to be a negative. Same with if we have a negative times a positive, it's going to be negative. Ah, so just to give you some number references, if we have negative 2 and we multiply it by 3, we are going to get negative 6. All right, so even if we did it the other way, if we had a positive 2 times a negative 3, it also equals negative 6. All right, so no matter what, whether the first number is positive, second number is negative, or does not matter which one's larger, it could be, negative 10 times positive 5, it'll be negative 50. All right? So our next rule we're going to be talking about is when you multiply a negative number by a negative number. And when you multiply a negative number by a negative number, the answer will always be a positive number. It will always be a positive number. So if we have negative 4, all right, times negative 3, all right, it's going to equal positive 12. All right, it will always be positive. So let's do some examples. So we have a negative 5 times a negative 3. That little asterisk is just another way to write a multiplication sign. So we have negative 5 times negative 3. Now, according to our rules, we know that the answer is going to be a positive number. So we can take all of these negative numbers out of the running, okay? And we know that 5 times 3 normally is 15. So in this case, negative 5 times negative 3 is going to be positive 15. All right? Same thing here. So we have a negative 6 times a negative 3. And in this case, the same rule applies as before. It's a negative times a negative, so our answer has to be positive. So in this case, it's going to be positive 18. All right? So our next problem we have is negative 4 times 2. Now we have a negative times a positive. In this case, our answer will be negative. So 4 times 2 is 8, and because we know that there's one negative and one positive, it has to be negative 8. All right? Skipping down to the very bottom, same rule applies as it always has in multiplication. When we have any number, positive or negative, times 0, the answer will always be 0. Okay, so why don't you complete these last four: 5 times negative 3, negative 6 times negative 2, 9 times negative 2, and 4 times negative 3 in your notes, and we will look at them together in class. All right, so that concludes our section on multiplying. integers. Now we're going to move into dividing integers. Dividing integers basically have the exact same rules as they do for multiplying. So in this case, we have a positive number divided by a negative number. The answer will be a negative number. We have a negative divided by a negative. The answer will be positive. So for example, if we have 12 divided by um, negative 6, it will equal negative 2. All right. And if we had a negative 12 divided by a negative 6, the answer would then be a positive 2. Now, if you think about it this way, um, negatives or division problems are the exact opposite of multiplication problems. So our rules are not changing at all. All right, so if we were to take a negative 2 times a negative 6, the rule says it's going to be a positive 12. So that's how we are getting the answer of negative 2 in our original division problem. Okay, so let's look at some examples. We're just going to concentrate on the division problems in this particular activity. We're not going to worry too much about the negative ones. So we'll just start. So we have, well, in this case, our answer is going to be 16, so we have to figure out what that would be, and in this case, it would be that answer. All right, so let's just go over this. We won't play the game, but all right, if we have 24 divided by negative 4, we know we have a positive divided by a negative, so our answer is going to be a negative, and 24 divided by 4 is 6, okay, is 6. All right, now if we look at negative 20 divided by negative 5, we have a negative divided by a negative, so that is going to equal a positive number, and in this case, positive 4. All right, so we're going to do one more practice activity. And in this case, we're going to classify each answer as either a negative answer or a positive answer, and we're working with both multiplication and division down here. So we have a negative 1 times a negative 3. All right, and think about it for a second. Would the answer be negative or positive? If you said positive, ding, 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 you are correct. All right. Okay, now if we have a negative 8 divided by a negative 2, it's a negative divided by a negative. So if you think about it again, it would be positive. All right. Now we have a negative 8 times a positive 8. In this case, we have a negative times a positive, so our answer will be negative. All right, so if you'd like some more practice, there are definitely problems down here. You can answer them, either tell me whether or not they're negative or positive, or give me the whole number, which would be good anyways. So just to recap, um, these are the rules. They look a little confusing, but it's exactly what you already wrote down. So you know the first line, positive times positive equals a positive. Positive divided by a negative equals, or positive times divided by a positive equals a positive. But our new rules that we just talked about are all right here. All right? So they are the bottom 3 lines. All right, so that concludes our lesson on multiplying and dividing integers.